Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As COVID-19 cases continue to creep up in the United States, averaging around 85,000 daily cases, the Biden administration plans to purchase 10 million courses of Pfizer's new COVID pill. Paxlovid has been shown to reduce hospitalization and death by nearly 90% in high-risk adults during trials. Pfizer requested emergency use authorization for the oral treatment Tuesday. This comes as Pfizer announced a deal to make the pill available more cheaply in 95 low- and middle-income nations by allowing it to be manufactured as a generic. Vaccine equity advocates say the move is a good first step, but condemn the fact that the deal excludes so many countries. Doctors Without Borders said, quote, "The world knows by now that access to COVID-19 medical tools needs to be guaranteed for everyone, everywhere, if we really want to control this pandemic." Meanwhile, vaccine makers continue to report massive profits from COVID treatments. Oxfam found Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna are making combined profits of more than $1,000 every second, or $65,000 every minute. In more vaccine news, the FDA is expected to authorize Pfizer booster shots for all adults as early as this week. A number of states have already expanded booster eligibility to all vaccinated adults, including California, Colorado, and New York. In news from Canada, catastrophic flooding has killed at least one person in British Columbia and forced thousands to evacuate their homes. Some areas in the Pacific Northwest received nearly 10 inches of rain, triggering landslides and overflowing rivers. 3 major highways connecting Vancouver to the Canadian interior have been washed out. The flooding also forced the temporary shutdown of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. The climate-fueled record rainfall comes just months after wildfires devastated some of the same areas of British Columbia. Meteorologist Eric Holthouse tweeted, quote, "After the hottest heat wave in Pacific Northwest history this summer, the rainy season there has begun with torrential flooding. We're in a climate emergency," he said. In Australia, climate activists has disrupted rail shipments into the port of Newcastle for an 11th consecutive day in a nonviolent direct action campaign aimed at halting exports from the world's largest coal port. Some of the activists have locked their bodies to rail cars and railroad tracks, while others suspended themselves on platforms or giant tripods in the path of trains, forcing long delays as police struggled to remove them. At least 19 people have been arrested on charges that could see some of them jailed for up to 25 years. On Tuesday, activists suspended themselves from massive pieces of machinery halting operations in the coal port.
I'm taking this action on the stolen land of the Worimi and the Awabakal people. This land was never ceded over by these people, and Australia has been committing genocide against the first people of this land for 250 years now. Australia has been brutalising the first people, has been brutalising the land and the water.
In Kenosha, Wisconsin, the jury in the trial of the white teenage gunman, Kyle Rittenhouse, is deliberating for a second day today. Rittenhouse fatally shot 2 people and wounded a third during protests over the police shooting of Jacob Blake in 2020. In a highly unusual move, Rittenhouse was instructed by Judge Bruce Schrader Tuesday to randomly draw the names of 6 jurors who were removed from the pool of 18 citizens who were sitting on the jury. The 12 remaining jurors then proceeded to deliberation. The random selection is typically done by a member of the court. One legal expert called Schrader's decision, quote, "an interesting piece of theater." Meanwhile, it's been revealed, trial consultant Joellen Demetrius, known for shaping jury selection in the O.J. Simpson trial, worked with Rittenhouse attorneys in their selection process and closing arguments. In another closely watched trial, the state of Georgia has rested its case in the trial of 3 white men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery, the black jogger. On Tuesday, the medical examiner who performed the autopsy testified that Ahmaud died after being shot 3 times at close range. 2 of the bullets hit him, including one that tore a big hole in the center of his chest. The jury was shown graphic video of Arbery's wounds and his blood-soaked white T-shirt. The defense is beginning its case today. In Oklahoma, advocates have been rallying outside the barricaded governor's mansion ahead of the planned Thursday execution of prisoner Julius Jones. Jones was convicted of a 1999 murder, but has maintained his innocence. Oklahoma's Pardon and Parole Board recommended that his death sentence be commuted to life in prison with the possibility of parole, but the final decision now rests with Governor Kevin Stitt. The White House has revealed President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping have agreed for the 2 nations to begin holding nuclear arms talks. For decades, the U.S. has maintained a vastly larger nuclear arsenal, but China's been investing in new nuclear arms technology. Earlier this year, China tested a nuclear-capable hypersonic missile. Satellite imagery suggests China's also building more than 100 new intercontinental missile silos. Meanwhile, the United States is planning to spend over $1 trillion in coming decades to modernize its nuclear arsenal. In Burma, the military junta, which seized power in the February 1st coup, has charged overthrown civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi with election fraud and lawless actions. Aung San Suu Kyi has been detained since February and is facing multiple other charges in secretive, closed-door court proceedings. Meanwhile, the U.S. journalist Danny Fenster landed in New York Tuesday after being released from a Burmese prison on Monday.
Journalists and prisoners of conscience in Myanmar and everywhere else, for me in Myanmar, just a lot of citizens, doctors, teachers that are in prison right now. And, you know, that's another point that everybody here is reiterating. This will be a short little celebration, but, you know, let's keep focused on what the actual story is here.
Myanmar is what the Burmese military renamed Burma. A Burmese rights group has recorded over 10,000 arrests since the February coup. According to the UN, 126 members of the press have been arrested, with 47 currently in detention. In Chile, the Senate voted against impeaching President Sebastián Piñera, putting an end to the removal effort that was launched after allegations of corruption and financial misdeeds emerged following revelations in the Pandora Papers leak. The Biden administration's banned Nicaraguan government officials, including President Daniel Ortega and his wife, Vice President Rosario Murillo, from entering the United States following recent elections, which saw Ortega reelected for a 4th time, in which the U.S. and others have denounced as rigged. Leading up to the vote, authorities arrested some 40 opposition figures, including 7 prospective presidential challengers. The travel ban came one day after the U.S. announced separate financial sanctions on Nicaragua. Ortega has long accused the U.S. government of interfering in Nicaragua and supporting a coup attempt in 2018. The Nicaraguan Congress has also denounced the Organization of American States for passing a resolution declaring the election lacked democratic legitimacy. In Burkina Faso, hundreds of protesters took to the streets of the capital Ouagadougou on Tuesday to demand President Roch Kabore resign after a recent militant attack on a defense outpost in the northern border region killed 28 soldiers and 4 civilians. It was the worst recorded attack against troops during a 4-year conflict that's killed thousands and displaced over 1 million people. Protesters on Tuesday also demanded the departure of French forces that patrol Burkina Faso, as well as neighboring Mali and Niger, whose presence, they say, leads to more attacks by insurgent groups.
We are not happy. There are too many killings. We are fed up. How many widows? How many orphans in this country? We came out in 2014 to create some change, but now there's no change. Nothing has changed. The worst is here. They told us it will not be like before. Why are we still seeing the worst?
The State Department announced the U.S. is curbing refugee admissions in order to prioritize the resettlement of thousands of Afghan evacuees. The pause on admitting certain groups of refugees will run through January 11th. The U.S. admitted just 400 refugees in October, despite President Biden's commitment to resettling up to 125,000 refugees this fiscal year. North Dakota's Republican Governor Doug Burgum has signed legislation banning the teaching of critical race theory. Public schools are now barred from teaching students that, quote, racism is systemically embedded in American society and the American legal system to facilitate racial inequality, unquote. A Connecticut judge ruled far-right conspiracy theorist and InfoWars host Alex Jones was liable for damages in lawsuits brought by families of children killed in the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre after Jones failed to turn over documents to the court. For years, Jones spread conspiracy theories that the shooting was a government hoax and the victims' families were paid actors, resulting in online harassment and death threats for Sandy Hook families. The 2012 massacre claimed the lives of 20 school children and 6 educators. And in labor news, workers at 5 branches of Pacific Northwest restaurant chain Burgerville have become the country's first fast food employees to successfully unionize. The tentative agreement with Burgerville includes expanded sick leave, vacation benefits, paid parental leave, and a reliable 3-month schedule. It also guarantees pay rates that are higher than the statewide minimum wage. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report.